Chapter 3: The Invisible War. If poverty was a color, it would be transparent. And if you're transparent along with it, you'll see the root of the problem. When you look closely at the demographics affected by different variations of poverty, you'll notice that they are feeding a trend that should have died a long time ago. In today's society, the only time this demographic comes together again is when a subject matter is broadcasted as quote-unquote white America versus black America. There's a thin line between hearing and listening. In order to understand why generational poverty is rooted so deeply, we must go back to the day Martin Luther King gave his famous dream speech. America was so focused on the image of a black man addressing racial issues on the national stage that we failed to listen to the heartbeat of what the message meant. His speech was received as the falling action of the civil rights movement, but was also a battle cry simultaneously. He attempted to give us a glimpse of how inspirational the narrative of our nation could be. Remember, he called it a dream for a reason. The underlining theme of our country is love, hope, opportunity, sacrifice, and positive change. These characteristics existed in the Old Testament of America's history, but no one wrote them into existence in the New Testament of today's society. While Nelson Mandela was incarcerated physically, the rest of the world was incarcerated mentally. Boundaries, shackles, and chains were finally broken, but America remained incarcerated mentally, even when he said we were free at last. A trend of legacy would be rooted deep in the soil of our country if America wasn't behind bars mentally. We would have continued marching forward towards the doors of opportunity scattered across America. But because we didn't escape the penitentiary of our own minds, we subliminally went backwards. We are blinded by a spotlight that glorifies our nation is evolving. But behind that light lives the darkest truth about today's society. We haven't fully evolved along with it. It's self-inflicted suicide. These incidents aren't limited to this demographic because it's no longer about race. Don't neglect what's in the shadows of America's face. Both ethnicities are guilty of not investigating the strays from their own shade. The truth is no one is better than anyone else. We share the same responsibilities amongst the multiple opportunities our country has to offer. We are all Americans who live in the greatest country in the world. All we have to do is simply accept the positive change that already occurred. America as a whole doesn't know how to deal with itself because it has become so successful and complex. Yes, some aspects of society are still corrupt. However, don't ignore the fact that the elephant in the room is the size of baby Dumbo and not his mama Mrs. Jumbo. There's nothing wrong with protesting and picketing for the right cause. However, until you protest to your household about the broken branches in your family tree, you will continue to pass on the same generational curses that haunted you as a child and followed you like the Grim Reaper for the rest of your life. The battle is not this race versus that race, rich versus poor, him against her or you against me. The war that is taking place every single day is your legacy versus generational poverty. And the battlefield is your home where you lie your head every night. For generations, your worst enemy has been hiding in plain sight because poverty was promoted in the images you've seen. Regardless of your unfortunate upbringing, you can still win the fight for your family in the war against generational poverty. Millions of children grow up in single-parent households across America. Ignorance is truly bliss because children are seen, but they do not pay attention to what's being given to their parents or how their parents navigate through life. There's an invisible war taking place. Your children's minds are being ambushed by the images you may not realize you are promoting. Generational poverty is rooted so deep that families naturally feel like their poverty-driven home is a safe haven when it's been the war zone for the real fight for generations. Frank became aware at a young age of a common trend in his household. Mother Carrie always needed assistance to provide for him on a daily basis. Once he started observing the cycle of how his family operated, it sparked an interest in his young mind. He started yearning for the truth about his circumstances and family structure. Frank saw that his mother consistently needed food stamps and sometimes visited food banks available to the public. They lived in the projects in Milwaukee, and Frank could never formulate the answers to why his family was so heavily dependent on government assistance. When he headed to school every day, he saw a visual difference between his family and other people around the city.